Hello, I'm Robert. Welcome to my channel, fact checking to help you if you're scared of many things. And this time it's about QAnon. And QAnon is not really a person with Q clearance, which is very high clearance in the United States. He is just someone who claims to be, he's pretending, he's acting. And he has been saying many completely false things for years. And he just says one thing after another is going to happen, and it doesn't happen. He claims to have secret intelligence that something will happen, and it doesn't happen. It just goes on and on and on. He doesn't know anything. That's absolutely clear. And so this is the last one that that there's this claim going around now that Trump will be inaugurated as president on 4th of March. And there is just no way that this makes sense. So what has happened is that QAnon they've linked up with the people who call themselves sovereign citizens, a sovereign citizen movement. And the 4th of March is the old inauguration day from before 1933 with the old constitution. And through very convoluted arguments, these people claim that the constitution after 1933 is not a valid constitution. What they conveniently ignore, the people who have joined Trump onto this movement, is that if they were right, then Trump obviously was not a valid president either. He wasn't elected correctly. If Biden wasn't elected correctly and wasn't inaugurated, because he was inaugurated on the 20th of January, well, Trump was also inaugurated on the 20th of January. So Trump can't be a president either. But they're not logical, these people. They just don't think in terms of logic. And so so first of all, nothing is going to happen. First of all, nothing can happen, because even if they were to try to do something like on January the 6th, back then there was no fencing like this at all around the Capitol. There were just some waist-high fences you could get over easily, and they were just temporarily, they weren't even on posts, and you could just push them aside, and they got in very easily. And there weren't nearly enough Capitol Police. There were no National Guards, and some of the police even seemed to have just let them in, though it's not very clear exactly what happened there. And so this has been, they learnt from then, and they're not going to let that happen again. The Capitol is surrounded by these high fences. Now, you may have seen a video like this one. It shows they've got razor wire on the top of the fences, but this shows some workmen removing the razor wire from one of the fences. What they don't explain is that there's an outer fence and there's an inner fence that's still got razor wire. So the Capitol is still protected by very high fences with razor wire on them. So they are unclimbable. You can't climb over a fence like that with those curly razor wire on the top, and with the Capitol Police and the National Guard patrolling. There's just no way that anyone's going to get in. So a riot, they just can't get to the Capitol. And then the latest that I just want to talk about is, talk about that now, I'll talk a bit about this QAnon again. So the latest is, I've got the update here, more details. The First House Sergeant-at-Arms Timothy Blodgett, he says that they will have additional Capitol Police on duty on the 4th of March, and but they don't think much is going to happen, and the National Guard, they're still staying there till the 12th of March. But they say in their monitoring of what's going on online, the significance of the data has declined, and they have no indications of groups travelling to Washington DC to protest or commit acts of violence. So they would not be surprised if there were small groups of protesters, like there were on the 20th of January with Biden's inauguration, but nothing like the scale of the January 6th protest. And so here's some quotes, and that's a longer one. The significance of this data has reportedly declined amongst various groups in recent days. At this time, the US Capitol Police has no indication that groups will travel to Washington DC to protest or commit acts of violence. And the one thing that really stood out when these things were planned on January the 6th was the online chatter, but there isn't any visible logistic organisation happening now. And that's a bit about small groups of protesters. And I don't think the security officials are expecting violence because they don't see the organisation like they saw for the January the 6th. And some more quotes here. And then, as well as that, the social media platforms, they've been taking down things to do with QAnon, like they always have, and if anything to do with March the 4th, and posts about Trump returning, and TikTok, they say they're still proliferating, but TikTok also have been taking down things to do with QAnon as well. And it's not over, and 19th president and so on. The 19th president is the claim that the last genuine, legitimate president of the United States was Ulysses S. Grant in the 19th century, and that no president since then has been legitimate. So I'm just going to explain that bit. I mean, probably most of you already know about QAnon. This is the claim that Trump's reason for becoming president was to bring to justice a global ring of satanic, paedophile cannibalists as Satan worshippers. And they continued to believe this despite Trump never prosecuting anyone for satanic worship and cannibalistic paedophilia. There wasn't a single case of any of that in his entire presidency, and yet they claim that was the entire reason why he became president, to prosecute this. And then when nothing happened, then Q said, well, he's going to arrest them all on the inauguration day for Joe Biden and arrest Joe Biden. And nothing like that happened. So now they're saying that Trump is going to become president on the 4th of March and arrest Joe Biden, and all the other stuff is going to happen tomorrow. But he's not president anymore, and he can't change the inauguration day. If he wanted to change the inauguration day, then he would have had to do it while he was president. And he couldn't do it by himself either. He would have needed a 2/3 majority in both the House and the Senate, and then he would have had 3/4 of the US states all voting by a majority in each state for this change of the Constitution to make the 4th of March the inauguration day instead of the 20th. And that obviously didn't happen. Biden could change the inauguration day for the 24th for 2024, but there's no sign that anybody wants to do that. So now let's explain the sovereign citizen movement. They believed that by a law in 1871, the United States was turned into a corporation, despite it having the Constitution and the legal cases all done by the US Constitution, there's no suggestion at all that it is a corporation, except for this one line in the 1871 law, and there's this one line. It says, as used in this chapter, United States, the term United States in its legal code means either a federal corporation or an agency, department, commission, board, or other entity of the United States, or an instrumentality of the United States. And they claim that this means the United States is a federal corporation. But what this really is saying is that the law in this chapter applies to federal corporations that are run in the United States. So what it really means Anytime you see the words United States, you may substitute a federal corporation. For instance, you can do it in 28 U.S.C. 3101. United States may, in a proceeding in conjunction with the complaint or at any time after the filing of civil action on a claim for a debt, make application under oath to a court to issue any prejudgment remedy. So that means that not just that by the United States, it means it includes any US corporation. So this means, for instance, that you could substitute US Postal Service. So the US Postal Service may, in a proceeding, in conjunction, etc., etc., etc. So that's all it's saying. In this legal code, whenever you see the United States, you can substitute any federal corporation. And you could substitute these other things as well. You could also substitute an agency, department, commission or board or instrumentality of the United States. So you could say, I suppose, the CDC may, in a proceeding, in conjunction, etc., etc. And so of course that didn't turn the United States into a corporation. And they claim that because of this line in the leak in this line saying that the United States in this particular section can refer to a corporation, this means that ever since then the United States has been a business, and that none of the presidents since then have been legitimate, because the United States isn't a democracy anymore as a result of this. They claim it secretly changes the United States into a company. It's absolute utter twaddle. There's a lady explaining that. And what the amendment that they believe ended the United Kingdom as a government also granted citizenship to former slaves, and its foundation of civil rights cases. It's almost the opposite of what the sovereign citizens believe. As they say, the amendment not coincidentally guaranteed citizenship for former slaves and led to landmark civil rights cases. So this very amendment, the 14th Amendment, is also that's the one that changed the date of the inauguration, which they say that it anyway. So and then you can look at all the previous QAnon predictions. As I said, there's absolutely no evidence that it's the absolute opposite. He clearly doesn't have Q clearance. He doesn't say things that only people with very high levels of clearance would know. He says lots of absurd things that never happened. He claimed that on the 20th of January that Trump would declare global martial law. There's no such thing as global martial law. They claimed that he is secretly in command for the military of, well, it implied that he was in command for the military of China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, etc., etc. He said the military all the way around the world under Trump's command would arrest many people all over the world for satanic paedophilia and then execute them. And that's absolute nonsense. I hope you can see that doesn't make sense. And yet, when I did a previous video on the 20th, just before the 20th, and I said, this is not going to happen, I got comments by QAnon believers saying that what I said was nonsense, and saying not to listen to me, telling other people not to listen to me, and that this was going to happen. So there were people online who actually believed this. They thought that Biden was going to be arrested and executed on the 20th of January, and they laughed at me for saying that won't happen. So really, it's a very nutty thing. And I think, basically, I don't think they believe it through logic. I think they believe it because of this idea that people you don't like, and you can imagine almost whatever bad thing you can imagine it about them. And then this gives a kind of emotional credence to the idea that these people, some kind of strange, bizarre theory that these people are going to be executed, that you for some reason don't like. Then you start believing this theory. Now, I just want to be absolutely clear, your average Trump supporter does not believe any of this stuff. This is not your average Trump supporter. These are people who are, well, I don't know. Basically they've got, it's like being radicalized with Islam radicalization, except it's QAnon. It's kind of, they hear something repeated over and over again that literally doesn't make sense, doesn't actually fit their own values. But they are so, it's like indoctrinated it, and they start believing it, even though it just doesn't fit their worldview at all, and it's not logical, it doesn't make sense, but it appeals to their emotions. And that's basically what happened there. And so after no global martial law was declared on the 20th of January, and when there wasn't, that was the last moment for Trump to be president. And they claimed that just before the inauguration, Trump would reveal a great dossier of thousands of documents. He would invoke global martial law, that all the way around the world the military would follow his bidding and arrest lots of people and execute them. And when this didn't happen, then many QAnon people then said, they then eventually finally said, oh well, they've been had, and all these years. And it must be very difficult if you've been believing something like that for 4 years, and you've changed your life, you maybe given up your job, you've done all sorts of things that basically devoted your life to this belief system, and then finding it's false. So it's quite difficult for them. And some of them eventually then just say, oh well, it is false, I just have to start again and make a new fresh start in life. And others, they just cling desperately onto whatever next tweet comes along that says something else. And so those ones, like the ones that are left over from 20th of January, are now believing the 4th of March. But that is basically fading away, and not many people are really taking it very seriously now, according to the latest intelligence. And so hopefully QAnon just gradually fades away. It could transform into something else. That's another possibility. That gradually they come to believe something completely different, and it just gradually morphs to this new thing. But for sure, nothing's going to happen, and there's nothing to worry about. They're very well prepared. And I see that's one of the central people in QAnon, and he suggested people. He said, we gave it our all. Now we need to keep our chins up and go back to our lives as best we are able. We have a new president sworn in, and that's Ron Watkins, who was central to the QAnon. We have a new president sworn in, and it is our responsibility as citizens to respect the Constitution, regardless of whether or not we agree with the specifics or details regarding officials who are sworn in. As we enter into the next administration, please remember all the friends and happy memories we made together over the past few years. So that's a QAnon believer who said that. So at least some people have moved on at last, and they did that on the 20th. After nothing happened on the 20th of January, they recognise that after all, Trump was supposed to become president to do all this stuff. He is now no longer president, and he hasn't done any of these things. So they've said, well, we have to move on. And that seems a sensible thing to do if you got caught up in this. And so anyway, that's it. Hopefully that's helped some of you to be a bit less scared. I think I've covered everything here. Just quickly looking through. Doesn't make sense as usual. Yes, I think I've covered everything there. Sorry. No, that's a different one. Right, so that's where we are. I'll upload this, and hopefully this helps some of you who have got scared by this. There's nothing to be scared of.